material points to the fact that when one's dealing with technology, one is, of course, dealing with material objects, and in many cases that's just blindingly obvious. You know, in the talk I used the example of grain mills from the Middle Ages, and their materiality is very self-evident. But when we get to digital stuff, people often think about, well, there's the cloud, everything is virtual. And those things are, of course, true, but the virtual is always material. The cloud is ultimately a collection of data centers and connections among those data centers, and the data centers consume large amounts of electricity, for example. So that's the first word, material. The second word, political. Technologies can be implemented differently. Technologies can develop in different directions, and sometimes at least what's at stake in which direction they go, in what way a technology is organized, is, at least in a broad sense, a political question. And here I'm drawing the notion of material politics from the work of two scholars I very much admire, Anna Marie Moll and John Law. Then the third word, economy, comes into it because my kind of activity don't pay enough attention to the undramatic, routine ways in which money is made, both in the financial system and in my new area of research on online advertising. Well, high frequency trading is automated trading that is ultra fast, and it's proprietary trading, which means it's trading that aims at direct trading profits, not earning money. Automated, ultra fast, proprietary trading. Ultra fast is very, very fast, that can respond in of the order of 20 nanoseconds to a trading opportunity. Now, a nanosecond is a billionth of a second, and 20 nanoseconds is an unthinkably small amount of time. In a nanosecond, the fastest possible signal, according to Einstein, light in a vacuum, can travel only about 30 centimeters. So a nanosecond is what it takes light to go from one of my fingers to the other finger. And that's an astonishingly short time interval. Signals are sent from one trading data center to another trading data center, not primarily via fiber optic cable, because in the fiber optic cable, light is slowed down by the glass that forms the core of the cable to something like only 2/3 of the speed of light in free space. Whereas if you send a signal through the atmosphere, it's going at almost the speed of light in free space, the speed of light in a vacuum. So that's what people do, and they do it particularly using microwave. The material politics, very, very local and specific. Some exchanges allow you access to the data center roof to put your antenna on the roof. Others do not. And there's a surprisingly large amount of conflict over that issue. So the speed race is the market making algorithm, which also receives the same signal. They're in the same game. It's the market making algorithm trying to cancel those orders before they're executed against. and the liquidity taking algorithm trying to execute before the order is cancelled. Now, any one instance of the speed race doesn't involve very large amounts of money. The firms that run the two species of algorithm are in a race with each other to be fastest. The speed races are kind of zero sum. It's not, they're not benefiting the wider financial system. They're not benefiting the wider economy. So there is a waste of social resources in the speed races. There are at least three main forms of online advertising. There are the search adverts that you get when you Google something of commercial interest. There are the adverts that are inserted into your news feed on Facebook, or analogous things happen in other social media platforms. And then the third category are the adverts that you get shown when, for example, you visit a website or use an app. I've been looking at the economy point. The material political point is how publishers have been trying to re-engineer the system, so to speak, so that they can earn bigger revenues. It includes not just independent intermediaries, it includes Google, for example, and there are a couple of big lawsuits. I wouldn't, I think, want to exaggerate the effect of advertising on people's subjectivities, because of course people generally know they are being advertised to. I mean, occasionally there are what are called native ads that don't look like ads. Google search is a considerable benefit to humanity, that free of charge you can retrieve all kinds of information. The financial trading is just one part of a long chain. And it's not necessarily the most crucial thing. So I don't need to tell anyone from Spain how important during the Eurozone crisis the question of the price of Spanish government bonds, or to be more precise, the yield of those bonds, the rates of return they offered, and in particular, the spread of those yields. But we can't blame high frequency trading for those effects, because the incumbents, the established firms in the trading of sovereign bonds particularly, are big banks. I wouldn't want to exaggerate the effects of ultra-fast high-frequency trading on people's everyday lives. One of the things I learned, I've been studying the financial system now for something like 25 years. And one of the things I learned is that crises, the system is prone to crises, and crises tend to arise from mechanisms that you haven't thought of, and indeed other people interested in the system and involved in the system haven't thought of. So I'm very reticent about saying what's safe and what's dangerous in finance. I mean, I think financial systems are inherently fragile. This, I confess, I'm rather fascinated by. High frequency trading is materially vulnerable to something as basic and routine as rain, because microwave radiation is absorbed by the droplets of water. That's what rain is, of course, just droplets of water. So when it rains heavily, for example, between the futures market, which is in Chicago, and the shares, the trading of shares in the United States, which goes on in data centers in northern New Jersey, when it rains between Chicago and New Jersey, reasonably often, the microwave links fail, they go down. And you can see the effects, I'm told, on patterns of prices of the fact that it's raining. Interventions by regulators, or the absence of interventions by regulators. So, for example, the reason the link between Chicago and northern New Jersey is so important to share trading is because the prices of share index futures traded in. People through the decades have tried to bring the two together to form a unified regulator, but they've always failed. And ultimately it's because shares, the Securities and Exchange Commission, reports to the Senate Banking Committee. Futures, because futures originally were agricultural, reports to the Senate Agriculture Committee, and the Agriculture Committee has never been prepared to give up jurisdiction over futures. Competition regulators have done, and what they've not done has been very important in shaping online advertising. Privacy regulation, similarly, but in particular, Europe's GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation, is also very important in that field. Gets imprinted, becomes visible in a certain sense in the little, in something as small as, say, a gyroscope, an accelerometer in a missile guidance system. So we're very good, I think, in social studies and technology at seeing processes of that kind. Stay only with the big processes and never look inside technical systems. We're actually going to be missing very important things. Whereas if we look only at the inside of technological systems, we will be missing very important parts of what shape them and what shaping effects that they have on broader economic, social, political, cultural issues. What my work does is, by opening up the insides of technological systems, so to speak, so we can see what's going on internally to those systems, we can understand crucial economic processes rather better. That is connected to the auctions and bidding processes, entirely automated and no direct human involvement at all, that take place when, using your phone or your laptop, you go visit a news website. And the way that the money that the advertisers are paying to advertise on that website is not going in anything like full to the publisher of the website. So that's the kind of thing where I would hope that my insight, my work can provide insights to questions that are significant in people's lives.